Welcome back to a Book a Day podcast. As you know, these days I am narrating short stories from various Indian languages translated into English. And for today's episode, I've got a language which is rarely gets spoken about. The language is Dogri, and the story is called The Farm, written by Chaman Arora. So, without taking much of your time, let me start narrating this story, which is called The Farm, written by Chaman Arora. Here we go. It took me 4 days to take over charge of my new job. The beauty of the valley captivated me. What a lovely place! It seemed a far cry from our Kandi, where even a blade of grass did not grow, and which many rainy seasons skipped without shedding a single drop of water. Here I could see green fields and water everywhere. A river lay here, a stream there, and springs all around. No berry trees or brain khads here, only tall pine trees and high rising deodars. No hotlu here, only an invigorating coolness. The valley's beauty seemed opposite of what is its name. Karsog literally mean condole, suggested to me. It was evening, but an evening in the hills is very different from what in the plains is. Here the sun disappears behind the hills much before the birds stop twittering. In our parts, it is not evening till the sun, looking like a ball of fire, has rolled down somewhere below the earth's rim, and until flights of sparrows and crows have taken shelter in the leaves of banyan and berry trees. I noticed that in the hills the sun did not set, it just disappeared. Putting my signature on the charge sheet forms, I looked at the Babu whom I had just relieved. Suddenly, I remembered something and inquired. There are only 3 gardeners for an area of 20 acres. How is the work managed here? Is it easy to hire a labor? He hesitated a while and then began to laugh. I noticed that when he laughed, his eyes narrowed. He was also squint-eyed. He said, "There may be problems on other farms, but not here. Here we can always get labor and good labor at that. Otherwise, these hill people would not care to even pee at a bleeding finger." I was relieved, even pleased to hear that. Next morning, I asked Milky Ram, the gardener, to get some laborers for weeding the rice field. 15 to 20 workers turned up. I noticed that there were more girls and women among them, their ages ranging between 16 and 25. I had never employed women. I asked the gardener whether there was any problem in getting men. He assured me that if the women did not work properly, he could throw them out. But they had been working in this farm ever since its establishment. He explained to me that otherwise too, in these hills, women did most of the work on the farm and in the fields, except plowing. "Sir, all of them are dependent on the farm for their livelihood, and with them around, we have never felt any labor shortage. That is why this farm is famous in the whole of this district. Every Babu who has left this farm has now become an officer." I nodded my approval. Milky Ram started assigning work to the laborers, and I went across to my quarters. After breakfast, lighting a cigarette, I looked out. Green fields stretched right up to the hills of Kailodhar. Beyond them lay forests of pine and deodar and kail, and still higher, white snow rested on the tops of mountains and hills. What a lovely landscape! Then I turned my eyes to the fields. Red, blue, and yellow scarves tied on the heads of the girls and women seemed to bob up and down. Shalwars tucked above their calves and hands busy weeding grass, the women presented an enchanting picture. The only sound came from the rising and falling of barks. I felt light and pleased with myself. After watching this scene for many days, I started feeling that the women were indeed indispensable to the farm. There were the older ones, Bilmu, Seti, Malati, and the middle aged ones, Murtu, Durgi, and Paplu, who never missed a day's work. Then there were Bishnu, Savitri, and Kamlo, who worked less but were more lively and full of fun. They were young and pretty and laughed uninhibitedly. In movement, their red, blue, and yellow scarves looked like butterflies in flight. I felt like Kahana among gopis. I would keep standing at the boundary on pretext of supervising their work. My eyes would sometimes wander to the collars of their shirts and at other times catch the beauty bursting out of their torn clothes. I would pull up one and get blessed by another. Thus my days passed. Bhaks livened and weeding of rice fields and the digging of maize fields. One day, Milkhi Ram said to me hesitantly, Sahib, you're still alone. Days pass somehow. I wonder how you pass the nights. If you wish, shall I make some arrangement? I gave him the go ahead, but on condition that no one should know of it. The same night, Savitri came to me. What I had considered as the most difficult act till my age of 21 turned out to be such a simple matter. That night, I grew up from an awkward boy of 21 into a man. After that, it was sometimes Bishnu and sometimes Kamlo who continued to help me become a full-fledged man. In order to please them, I would always give them something. Sometimes hay, sometimes corn, and sometimes money. It did not cost me anything. I was surprised that nobody talked about this matter. Savitri was the prettiest of the lot, and it was she who kept me company on most of the nights. The rainy season had just got over. Crops started changing color. They turned from green to red and then donned a golden coat until the plants started dancing in the wind. Their beauty was too much for them to hold on to their own. It called to be reaped. That night it was Savitri. Somewhere near, a drum was beating. Bhags were being sung and perhaps Nati was being danced. Just then Savitri told me that a little babu was on its way. The sounds coming from outside turned into a pandemonium. Each beat of the drum was like a hammer blow on my head. The crops were good that year, therefore every night there would be drum beating and bhag singing, sometimes on one side, sometimes on the other. It always seemed to me as if a crowd was coming to my quarter, raising their voices and brandishing their arms. And then the pounding inside my head would begin. The paddy was harvested, but the hammer blows inside my head continued. I ceased to listen to the music of the mountain hills or enjoy the beauty of nature spread out in front of me. The mountains now appeared to be like walls. I felt encircled by tall pines and deodars with no way to get out. The encirclement seemed to be zeroing in on me. I felt the news rolling down from the tops of hill, passing over the pines and deodars, coming down, stepping over the barbed wires around our farm and closing in on my quarters. Sometimes, lying in bed, I felt as though somebody had clutched at my heart. There was no respite from the hammering in my head and chest. I thought of my mother and of my younger sister. What would they think when they came to know of this? Why had I done it? How would I get out of it? Sometimes I consoled myself with the thought that Savitri was not involved with me alone, but must be having other lovers too. Yet, what seemed strange was that nobody had said anything to me so far. Milky Ram seemed to have sensed what I was going through, as I had not sent for any girl for many days. It was an off day, perhaps. I was reading the newspaper seated in a chair in the courtyard of my quarters when Milky Ram came in. He had with him 3 or 4 small boys. A handsome one, about 5 or 6 years, struck me. The little boy looked at me and smiled. When he laughed, his eyes narrowed a bit. I noticed that he was squint-eyed. I beckoned to him to come closer, but he did not and continued to laugh from afar. Milky Ram said, "Sir, can you guess whose son he is?" I remembered that I had seen someone who resembled him. Who was it? I could not recollect. Suddenly, my predecessor's face flashed before my eyes. The same hesitant smile, the same squint eyes, the hammering in my head started again, and my face became flushed. I looked towards Milky Ram. He was smiling. The blue gums over his yellow teeth gave me a strange feeling of revulsion. His upper lip was raised like a dog's. I turned white and blurted out, "The previous Babu?" The hunter was quick to grab its victim. "Yes, sir, the previous Babu. You have got it right. But why are you alarmed? You're not going to remain here forever, a year or at the most 2 or 3 years. Then a new Babu will come. This Murta and Durgi and Paplu and Kamlo, Bishno, Savitri, they are all products of this very farm. And they are all here to render services at the farm, whatever the form of service. This arrangement must continue. Otherwise, there will be a dearth of labor here also. After all, sahibs must also leave behind some memento." Wheat began to be harvested, but Savitri did not come. I learned that she had given birth to a daughter. I could clearly see what Savitri's daughter was going to undergo 15, 16 years hence. I wished I could get myself transferred to another place before seeing the face of the infant at Savitri's breast. And that's how the story ends. Tells you about the dark realities of the society. So that was the short story, originally written in Dogri, the story called The Farm by Chaman Arora. Thank you very much for listening. I will catch you the next time with more stories and we'll explore more books. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.